Okay, so the next event has been announced and the next event is a walk in the dust. This comes as a bit of a surprise for quite a lot of you, and I think a lot of people are questioning, Cookie, what is the next schedule? This doesn't seem too right. Is this supposed to happen? Does that mean Scouter is coming earlier? What's the whole entire plan right now? I'm not going to talk about the scheduling matters in this video. As you can see from the video title, this is a should you pull video. So what I'm going to do in this video is that I'm going to talk about the event overview, and then afterwards go through the operators that we're going to see from this event. And then in the second video that I'll post up either tomorrow or the day after, we'll speak of the whole scheduling matter all over again. So for now, let's do one thing at a time. Let's talk about this new event and see what you guys need to take note from here. There are a bunch of new stuff that you can see from this event, including the UI updates that I talked about in the previous two videos. It totals up to about 40 minutes worth of stuff that I've spoken of in two previous videos. Please do watch them if you haven't, because I think they are the crux of the information here. Whereas today, I'm just adding on with the operators that you need to know about. So one, you get the UI updates. Afterwards, we're also getting new skins. The new skins that we're going to be seeing is the Bloodline of Combat skin, which has Halaga and Shiryuki. Very, very nice, elegant design that was given to the two of them. It's not confirmed whether these skins are rerunning, but for now, we can take it that it probably should happen, that these 6 BOC skins will come back together with this event. And at the same time, there's new furniture. This is a emergency room theme furniture. I think it's not all too bad, it's pretty sleek, so yeah, nice to have. Now I must speak of the event rewards. There's a lot of event rewards that comes from here. You can see there's a 500,000 LMD, quite a lot of EXP and skill summaries, as well as good materials that you can see from here. There's freaking electronic circuits that you can get from this event, and 5 of them is the tier 4 electronic circuits, and those are very hard to come by. So make sure you do purchase them from this event. And a note I must give to the players of this game, if let's say you are someone who is free to play, you need to take note that there is a chance that you might not be able to complete the entire store rewards. The amount of sanity that you need to clear the entire store has been calculated to be about 4,500, and within 2 weeks of the event, if you're free to play and you don't level up, you can probably only get about 3,700. So if you've been saving your sanity pack diligently, please make sure you're doing that. So if let's say you still have your 200 sanity packs from this week and the one that you get for next week, don't spend them now. Hold them for this event if you want to clear the event store. You may not have enough to clock the entire sanity requirement, so please do not hesitate to spend a little bit of OP if you want to in order to complete the event, or if not, you may have to go through the situation of choosing which materials that you want to get from the store and which one you might want to ignore. So in the case of what's in the store, maybe you can choose to forgo things like your furniture parts, your defender chips, or even your tier 2 materials. These things are a little bit easier to farm, so you don't have to be too stressful about them, whereas the ones in front, the bigger boys, like the tier 4 and the tier 5 materials, you're gonna want them. So yeah, note to free-to-play players, if you're a monthly card player, you're probably gonna clear out the store just fine, so don't worry about that. The materials that you can farm from this event, there are 3 materials in particular. It's RMA, Akiton, and polyester. I would suggest that you farm RMA the most out of the 3, because I do think that the other 2 materials are a little bit easier to come by. There's a lot of events that offer a Keaton. The next event that will offer a Keaton again is TOW Rerun, whereas polyester is something that's a little bit easier to get. You don't have too hard of a time to save for these, because more often the older operators needs polyester very badly, whereas the new ones needs the more current stuff like electronic circuits, coagulating gel. This one can be a little bit lighter, but RMA is a little hard to come by. So I do think that farming RMA is not too bad. But again, if let's say you have a lot of RMA, you can go ahead and farm the other materials that you want. Their rates are still very decent. And if you need to stock up on anything, go ahead and choose that material to stock up. Like for myself, my polyester is running a little dry, so I'll be farming polyester a little bit from this event as well. So that's all the things to note from this event. Let's cover about the operators in the event. So just a thing to note about the way that I'm reviewing operators in this event, I do not have the ability to go and test the operators or to play around with the operators to show you the gameplay of what they do. I don't play CN, so whatever I'm doing right now is very reactionary, whereby I'm going to read their kits together with you guys to tell you how I feel towards them, and then to give you a little bit of an on-site assessment as to whether I think they are decent operators that you may want to pull for, or someone that you can consider holding back a little bit unless you really want to build them. So let's start off with the welfare operator. This is the one that you don't have to pull at all. The welfare operator of the event is Heavyrain. Heavyrain has a very unique and sleek design, I would say. I like the color scheme that she has. She has a white and black color scheme that goes on. Ah, okay, now I get why her color scheme is like that. She's a zebra. Okay, so that explains why her entire color scheme has this white and black sort of thing going on. I do really like how she looks, I would say. It's quite cool to see the arrows being stopped by her shield over there. Although the shield doesn't look like an ordinary shield, I would say, it doesn't give you the immediate feeling of a shield, unlike maybe say Nerl or Saria. But then again, we have normal defenders who holds a door as a shield, which I'm referring to someone like Asbestos in this case. She's a defender and she's considered a normal defender, so she's a pure defender that focuses on raising her defense. Alright, let's look more into details as to the things she has. So she has defense and support as attacks. Her potential state that she has a lot of deployment cost that goes down, redeployment cooldown as well. And then, I think this is quite ordinary of defenders. The max HP is increased along with the defense. I see a talent enhancement here, so let's look at what her talent is. Her talent states that self and allies within the surrounding 8 tiles gain physical dodge. And it's not just physical dodge, it's a percentage chance to physical dodge. I wouldn't say to rely on anything with a percentage chance. Things with a percentage chance has never been a fun skill to use since it's inconsistent. But of course, if you're the kind that likes some RNG kind of gaming, then I wouldn't have to judge that. If that's the way that you want to play, then go ahead. At the same time, this only applies to physical dodge, it's not a full damage dodge. So arts damage is not counted here. I'm not really certain what's the use case here that you really want this physical dodge so desperately, but let's see her skills and her stats to see what other extra things that she does within her kit. I'm gonna benchmark all of the operators at Elite 2 level 30 from here on. This to me is kind of the default way that people build their Elite 2 if let's say you just E2 someone. So let's use this as a benchmark. And then for the skills, we're gonna benchmark it by rank 7 and then look at the entry afterwards. So for skill 1, rank 7, it says Emergency Camouflage. SP cost is 5 and it's a per second skill, and it's auto trigger as well, lasting for 4 seconds. Okay, the next attack will grant the following effects to a nearby ally with less than 50% HP for 4 seconds. Gain camouflage and recovers 50 HP every second, but will not cast on an ally already under the same effect. There's quite a few things that I need to point out about her skill here. For one, she's only gonna heal people when they are under less than 50% HP, which sounds very similar to Nerl and Saria. But the difference here is that the healing amount that she has is very much different. Recurring 50 HP per second in 4 seconds, meaning they're only gonna gain 200 HP, which is quite unlike Saria's and Nerl's healing amount where it can be in quite a few hundreds, right? I guess the way that they compensate it to balance it out is the fact that the operators gain camouflage. But the thing that you must understand about camouflage is that if let's say a melee attacking operator were to encounter an ally that's in a camouflage mode, they are still gonna fight. They're not gonna like phase through the person like a reef, or they're just gonna stand there and then feel like, hey, someone's attacking me. Who is this that's attacking me that I cannot see? This works very well when you're protecting yourself against ranged enemies, such as casters and archers. But apart from that, I don't really know what other use cases there are to this. Considering camouflage isn't gonna be an all-rounded time that you really need this ability, and the amount of healing is definitely not as high as some of the other healing defenders. At M3, the SP cost is dropped to 4, the duration doesn't increase, and recovers 70 HP per second. So that means they're gonna gain 280 HP this time. But to go from rank 7 to M3 just to get 80 more HP, I'm not very certain if it's worth the investment. Yeah, I don't really know when you'll use it. This definitely doesn't feel like a general skill at all. I don't think you're gonna find Heavyrain super impactful for your account. You might end up relying more on your other pure defenders that you already own. So okay, let's take a look at her skill 2. Her skill 2 name is Group Camouflage. Stop attacking enemies, defense is increased, HP is increased, and then grants camouflage to self and the allies in the 4 adjacent tiles. The amount of SP cost at rank 7 is 48, and if you go up to M3, it's gonna drop to 40. The defense and HP amount is higher, the duration is higher as well. I think this commits the same problem as skill 1 as I stated, whereby her entire kit itself just feels very niche and not super important. I don't think there's a big need to build her. If you like her because you like her design, you like her kit, you like the sound of the skills, please go ahead and build her. You shouldn't let other people influence your decisions as to who you want to own, because at the end of the day, Arknights is like a sandbox game. You decide your own gameplay, you decide what you want to do. But as a general suggestion, I don't really see why you must build her. I think I'd rather you put the resources to build other pure defenders like Hoshiguma, Quora, Liskam, maybe even some arts defenders like Asbestos or Dunner. They do have quite a lot of use cases. Whereas for Heavyrain, there's probably gonna be just these few little times that you will want to use her. So, okay, that's that for Heavyrain, at least my impromptu assessment of her. Let's move on to the next operator, which is Sesa. So Sesa has already been in the game with us for quite a while. I think we've been seeing him for maybe slightly under a year or already a year. He's an AoE sniper. I do really like the way that he looks. He looks pretty darn cool. Even his E2 art can be pretty sleek, right? A hot operator right over there. He has AoE debuff, so it's kind of like Meteorite. But the things that he does compared to Meteorite is definitely very different. This boy over here prefers that you have blocked enemies rather than unblocked ones. So only when the enemies are blocked will they receive more damage from him. His first skill is very boring, whereas his second skill is, I mean, it's something, but I'm not a big fan about it because as you can see over there, it says this. Attacks turn into delayed detonation grenades that deals 210% physical damage and decreases the ASPD of enemies hit by -10 for 3 seconds. So the problem with his skill 2 is the fact that it says that it's a delayed detonation. So what happens is that he'll throw a grenade out from his gun, and then afterwards it will land on the ground. It takes like this 1 or 2 seconds before the grenade explodes. So there's this hilarious gif that a lot of people send when talking about Sesa, whereby there's this clip where Sesa is aiming against this defender enemy, and the defender enemy just walks past all of his freaking delayed detonation grenade and doesn't receive any damage from Sesa. Which again, of course, that gif is a little bit of a joke, but it does show the weakness of Sesa, that he really needs you to block the enemies to make him seem very useful. But I feel that compared to another operator like Meteorite or even W probably has much better build cases than Sesa. If you do like him, however, like your Husbando Collector, or you just like the way that he looks, you like the sound of the delayed detonation grenade, then please go ahead and build him. But again, like a general advice, I don't think there's a huge need to get him or build him unless you want to use him for fun. Now we're on to Toddifons, where she's a heavyweight sniper. A heavyweight sniper will be the same class as Rosa, and I think this is a unique time because we haven't had another heavyweight sniper that appears in the game, so it's good to see Toddifons added as the 5-star variant of Rosa. And same idea, she will get the range increase when you have her at Elite 1, so you can see the difference in the range, right? Elite 0 is just like that, and Elite 1 is like that. Rosa and Toddifons has often been talked about for their strange range, but if you know how to use the range well to your advantage, then they can actually be very strong operators to use in your account. Let's take a look at her E2 art. I've never seen it yet. Ooh! Oh, she looks like a rockstar girl of sort. And what animal is she? Is she a wyvern? I almost want to say dragon, but I think she's more like a wyvern. That's very, very cool. So this gives me high hopes for what she might do as an operator. Let's take a look at the stuff that she has. For her tech, she's DPS. Only DPS? Okay, if she's only DPS, I'm gonna have to think that it means that she's super hard hitting. Like Rosa, by the way, her trait is very unique. She only attacks heaviest enemies first. So if let's say there's a weight 1, weight 2 and weight 3 enemy within her range, she's only gonna target the weight 3 enemy and ignore everyone else, unless she has some multi-target skill that I'm unaware of, which we're gonna see after this. Let's look at her potential to trust because it always indicates the focus of the operator. Potential 4 gives you attack power and the trust also gives you attack power. So clearly they're emphasizing on needing to raise her attack as high as possible. Now let's look at her talents. When attacking scarce enemies, increase attack to the amount of damage that it is, whether Elite 1 or Elite 2. Very interesting. So Mudrock has an ability whereby she can take reduced damage from Sarkaz, and now we have an operator that says that it can do more damage to Sarkaz. I don't know if there's another operator that deals more damage to Sarkaz enemies within the game. I think there might be, but I forgot whoever this is. But if there's none, then Toddifons is going to be the first one. Quite interesting to see the amount of attack increase, especially going up to 145%. Let's look at her stats. So again, we're going to put her to Elite 2, level 30. She has 845 attack. I've got my calculator here with me. Yes, even though I'm an Asian, but Asians nowadays still also use calculators. So let me just calculate out what her attack is after she has her trust and her potential. So with trust and potential, she has 974 attack. But if she's attacking Sarkaz enemies at Elite 2, so let's assume that you don't have a Port 4 Toddifons, you only have a Port 1 Toddifons. So we're gonna multiply it by 145%. She's gonna deal 1,400 damage against Sarkaz enemies. That's actually pretty damn high. Now I'm excited. Let's see what her skills offer. Skill 1 rank 7 has a SP cost of 29 and a duration of 20 seconds. So she will immediately mark an enemy, prioritizing heavier sarcasm enemies, increasing their taunt level and inflicting minus 25% defense. Attack now deals 150% physical damage. I do have a question that pops up in my head. I'm not sure if she targets more than one enemy unit, such that if let's say the person that she targeted is gone, will she end up targeting someone else? I would think that she does that. What I really enjoy is that unique ability where it says increasing taunt level. I've never seen any operator who can increase taunt level like that. Taunt level ruins a bit of the prioritization that your operators have, where if you see enemies like shield guards, they have this ability called taunt as well. So if a shield guard walks into the range of your operators, they're only going to focus on the shield guard and not anyone else. Toddifons' skill is very deliberate. When you turn on her skill, she's gonna make someone taunted and tell all your other operators to say, hey, don't attack anyone else, we're gonna attack this guy and only this guy right now. And this guy also has decreased defense, so it helps to kind of eliminate them even faster. Since she's prioritizing sarcasm enemies, right? Let me just put her up all the way to M3. So she deals 180% physical damage, and she also debuffs them up to 30%. Oh, I like the SP cost. The SP cost is only 25. Man, this skill is really spammable. Alright, let me just bump it up to that 180% damage that they talk about. Ooh, 2540 damage at E2, level 30, M3 on skill 1. That's some pretty high damage against a sarcasm enemy. And it's nice that they get the defense debuff and gets all other operators to focus fire. So I like the skill 1. I see that there are more use cases to her compared to the other two operators that I just talked about, being Sesa and Heavyrain. Let's look at skill 2. Her skill 2 says that she slightly increases attack interval, attacks fire dragon arrows that deals 210% physical damage. The arrows will explode after a short duration when hitting an enemy, dealing an additional 70% damage to the target and the nearby enemies in the surrounding area. Upon skill activations, Toddifons will get 10 arrows, and the skill ends if all arrows are used up, or you can deactivate the skill. It sounds like a really interesting skill. I like the fact that the first person receives a lot of damage and everyone else gets like a splash kind of damage. So speaking of the first target that receives the damage, at rank 7 E230, they're gonna get 2040 damage for the first target getting hit by the dragon arrows. And then for the explosion that the arrows cause, the target themselves and the enemies around will receive 680 damage, which is quite a lot of damage actually. And this is for 10 arrows. Oh yes, there's also no duration limit because this is just a matter of exhausting the number of arrows that she has. But yeah, it's quite a beastly amount of damage, and this number that I calculated is when she's not attacking sarcasm enemies. Let's boost her up all the way to M3 and consider a scenario where she's attacking all sarcasm enemies. Like the entire stage is made out of that. At M3, the arrows will deal 240% physical damage and they will deal an additional 80% physical damage. So now, again what I'm considering here is that we're going to use the Elite 2 talent of Toddifons and then afterwards her M3 abilities as well. Oh my goodness, look at that! That's an E230 Toddifons. 3400 attack. That is very, very high against a regular sarcasm enemy. She might be able to one-shot quite a lot of things actually. And even if the sarcasm enemies have something like 10,000 health, they're gonna get very easily eliminated by her. This will be for the enemies that are within the surrounding area, so the additional damage that the target gets and the nearby enemies, if they are all sarcasm, which is 1120. Again, honestly, this is pretty damn high. So actually, Toddifons is quite useful, I feel. Her abilities are pretty damn decent, to be honest. The only downside that I feel is, number one, her range, the fact that she prioritizes heaviest enemies, and her attack interval is a little bit long. You must kind of go and adapt and get used to her to make her useful for your account. If let's say you're a new player or someone that just started the game, would I suggest that you need a Toddifons? No, I don't think heavyweight snipers are that much of a must. In fact, Rosa was added like more than a year after the game was released, right? So all these new sort of classes, they're nice to have, and at the same time I feel like new type of operators often need a little bit more of a learning to put into them to make them good for you. So you'll be the decider as to whether or not you want to get Toddifons for yourself and whether you want to build her or not. I think it's a decent build, it's just a matter of who are your priorities right now. And speaking of who are your priorities, maybe the next one is going to be someone that you're excited for. We're going to cover the last operator, which is Passenger. Alright, the final operator to talk about in the banner, which is Passenger, the 6th star of the banner. Passenger has got quite a bit of an infamous reputation within Arknights, and some of you are aware, some of you may not know what I'm talking about, so we're gonna assess his kit all together, fairly together with the other operators, and then afterwards I'll give you my opinions as to how I feel towards him. Okay, let's start off from his artwork first. His design, honestly speaking, is very sleek, it's very elegant, and man does look like a very confident guy, don't you think? He's got his hand in his pocket, he's got a cool little mecha that goes behind him. I believe that's like his lightning storm generator, and his weapon that he holds on his left hand, even that thing looks really cool. He himself as an operator just screams divine as a design. If you look at his E2 art, goodness sake, just take a look at that. If a person have never played Arknights and they see this operator and then they are asked what do they feel about the operator when they first see this, they might feel that Passenger is the strongest operator in the game. At least when I saw his E2 art, I thought that he's gonna be a crazy operator because he looks strangely godlike. So it really adds that divineness and makes you think that he might have some crazy skills. Is that gonna hold true when we read the skills later on? We're gonna find out right now. Passenger is a chain caster. With chain caster, with the first one being Lei Zi, the archetype doesn't really have a good reputation per se, but who knows, maybe Passenger is the one that shakes things up. We shall see as we go. He has only one tag, which is kind of set as a 6 star. There are other 6 stars that also only have DPS as their tag, and actually these 6 stars often become very, very strong. So I'm speaking of 6 stars like Surtur and Schwartz. These two operators only have DPS as their tags, and yet they can deal some big crazy damage onto normal mobs and even bosses. So maybe there's a chance that Passenger goes along the same line as well. As a chain caster, his trait reads that attacks deal arts damage and jump onto 3 other enemies. Each jump will deal 20% less damage and inflicts a brief slow. Maximum jump targets will increase to 4 at Elite 2 promotion. So let's only consider Elite 2 promotion in this case. That means that when he attacks one target, there will be another 4 people who will receive damage as well, and it will be like a bounce effect. So it's going to bounce to 1 person, 2, 3, and 4. It sounds quite cool of an ability to have this chain sort of effect of attacking, but the problem that Lei Zi had when she was a chain caster is that while it's cool that she can target 5 people, but the trouble is that her attack value is very, very small. And I'm kind of worried that this is going to apply the same way towards Passenger as well. Let's read on. Okay, so for his potentials, there's some talent improvements, which is nice. And both the potential and trust status indicates that they will increase his attack. Now let's take a look at his talents. His first talent reads that when attacking enemies with 80% or more HP, he will increase his damage dealt to them by 20% at Elite 2 for 3 seconds. This skill is kind of iffy. If it was attacking enemies with 50% or more HP, I kind of wouldn't have minded as much, but this says that it's only if they have more than 80%, which if other operators are already attacking them, then they aren't gonna receive the damage boost that Passenger provides. It would have actually been even cooler if he applied it to 80% or less HP. That would make him so much more powerful. But okay, you know what? That's just his talent that he's given. Now the second talent that he has is that when there's no enemies in the 4 adjacent tiles of his, attack will be increased by 8% without any potential, that is. Again, if there are enemies within his adjacent tile then, because you kind of need enemies to be within his range, right? Since his range is like that. So I think more often there'll be enemies appearing within his sight unless you do strategize his placement well. But even the amount of attack increase doesn't feel crazy. It's just an 8% increase. So maybe he doesn't need all that much talent improvements that buff his attack. Maybe his skills are the one that's already giving him a big boost. So now let's look at his skills. Now his skill 1 reads that the next attack will deal 210% damage and bounce up to 4 targets. Increase the slow effect from his attacks to 1.5 seconds. Okay, so the SP cost is 6 and he's dealing more damage, there's more bouncing that happens. Over here the SP cost is still pretty damn high. If the SP cost was something like 3 or 4, I think it would have been exciting. If it's M3 it'll be 5. If it's M1, is it 5? No, okay, it drops to 5 when it's at M3. Wait, the amount of slow doesn't improve? It's still gonna stay at 1.5 seconds? Okay, that's kind of whacked. I would have thought that they would at least bother to increase the amount of slow time to 2 seconds, but they kept it at 1.5. I don't think this is his highlight of skill. I'm gonna have to think that his skill 2 and skill 3 are the more interesting ones. So let's take a look at those. His skill 2 with SP cost of 44 and a duration of 31 seconds. Attack range will increase by 1 tile, attack is increased by 20%, reduce attack interval. I like operators that reduce attack interval because it means that they'll attack much faster and better, and attacks will bounce up to 5 targets. Okay, so this is kind of similar to skill 1, isn't it? Reduce attack interval is good, by the way, because it means that they'll get slowed more often as well. I can see some use cases for skill 2, but there's still a chance that this isn't a highlight. It's probably going to be on skill 3. Entry of skill 2 states that the attack will increase plus 30% this time. Attack interval is decreased by half. Oh, attack interval decreased by half is actually very nice. As you can see over here, his attack interval is 2.3. So if he half it, it's going to be 1.15, which is about the attack speed of a guard. And it's to the extent that the enemies can receive a bit of a mega slow effect that goes on. So okay, I like the sound of his skill 2. Let's look at his skill 3 then. His skill 3 states that he immediately generates a lightning storm centered on the target with the highest HP within a wide range. So the wide range is the one that you see over there, lasting for 4 seconds. Does an additional attack dealing 150% damage against a random enemy within the lightning storm every 0.5 seconds. Hold up, so he generates a lightning storm and he does an attack, and the attack is also still gonna do some chain damage kind of thing. But this is very random now, isn't it? Number one, you need to ensure that the highest HP person is the person that you want to target to generate the lightning storm that you want. After that, you gotta hope that there is enough enemies around the person to get all that chain damage going on. If not, 150% damage of his attack. If you have him at max trust and you have him at elite 2 level 30 as well, he's only gonna do 939 damage at his skill 3 for the first target that he hits in the lightning storm. And that's the highest HP target. To me, this amount of attack is painfully low actually. And I mean, okay, he's gonna deal additional damage every 0.5 seconds, right? So he's gonna deal like 8 times. So it's about 7,000 damage that he deals per se. I don't think he's very comparable to some of the other burst operators that already exist in the game like Silver Ash and Airfiela. This skill honestly is kind of awkward. And why is it just 2 charges? Why can't it be 3? I mean, okay, it seems like it's always 2 charges, but 2 charges just feels a little odd. It would have been nice if it was 3 charges so that you can spam the lightning storm a little bit onto the enemies. The biggest problem that I find about Passenger's skill 3 is that it's a little too random. If you can go on YouTube and find some Passenger showcase whereby there's a lot of people who try to use Passenger in the stage and they end up failing because Passenger just targets the wrong person. The damage that Passenger provides onto other enemies is just small. This 150% damage is gonna ripple down and decrease by 20% each enemy that it goes to. So overall, I just don't really understand Passenger's kit. I feel like he could have some good use cases, especially for his skill 2 actually. I'm quite intrigued by his skill 2 more than his skill 3. But both the skill 2 and skill 3 has a very steep learning curve. I wouldn't say that it's outright bad or like completely useless per se. I think that in order to get him to work for you, you really need to understand why you're using him and how to make him good for you. And if you're someone who just started in the game and don't know what you're doing, Passenger is going to be a very hard one to pick up and learn what to do. So to me, this is quite a huge flavor pick. If you genuinely like Passenger and you want to give his skill kits a go, then please go ahead and pull him and build him. But if not, if you're wanting to hear like a, do I need to own him? My answer is no. I don't think you need him at all. I think there's something a little odd about his kit that needs some tweaking. I may pull for him and give him a go and then maybe make an update video as to how I feel about his kit. Since all the things that I'm doing over here is simply reading off his skill and then doing a little bit of calculations. I need to try some actual applications of him to be able to properly assess him. But for now, as an impromptu way to judge his kit, I think he's really not a must pull. My overall conclusion for this banner, To me, this is a banner that you can consider whether or not you want to save on. I don't think there's a big need for you to pull on this banner because there's not a lot of crazy operators that you have to own. If there are operators that you still really love from this event with things like Sesa, Toddifons, and Passenger, no one is stopping you, go ahead, pull them for all you want. But if not, again, generally survives, I think this is a time that you can kind of hold back on your Orundums and wait out to see what are the next operators that's to come that may be a little bit more worth the pool in terms of operators that really adds value to your account. I think that's all I have to cover for this particular event. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if not, do look forward to the next video where I will talk about a little bit of an update to the schedule of Arknights yet again. Alright, 07 to all of you. Bye bye.